this life force, the Yahai, is manifesting in all these different aspects. So in a tree, you've got the roots, you've got the bark, you've got the branches, you've got the leaves, and you've got the fruit. So all these things are all part of Yahai. And then what happens when it dies? Is it still Yahai? Well, if you think of it as a cycle of life, that this requires kind of thinking in a bigger sense, because after it dies, then the next phase of life comes in and cleans it up and turns it back into dirt, which becomes the source of life for the next tree or branches or people or whatever comes out from that. So there's a cycle going on here. There's some great documentaries that you can see. One of them is about fungi, how they live and how they take over something that's dead and give it life again from a completely new perspective. And not only that, but with trees, there's many trees that their roots, if there's like a forest or any kind of park or anything, the roots connect with each other, and the trees all know what's going on with each other. So it becomes a community where they're passing back and forth nutrients and information about what's going on with the soil, what's going on with the climate. So there's a communication going on, and this is another aspect of the life force. So you can, I'm riffing on the idea of what that one name might be about. And with each name, and there's 99 names, this can take you into all these different places to explore and learn about Allah. Our job, if you will, why we're here, is to know Allah, to praise Allah, and to be close to Allah, and learn to love Allah and to trust Allah. So these are ways to do that according to your intelligence, your form of intelligence is a way of getting to know Allah your best way. So if you think about the different kinds of intelligences, whether it's analytical, kinesthetic, visual, aural, geometric, or emotional, these kinds of intelligence, you have a proclivity, a strength, and you have some weaknesses. So you use your strength to get to know Allah, and use that to help you work through your weaknesses as well. So getting to know Allah, I'm going to start with Hafez, read you a little poem. It's called So Many Gifts. There are so many gifts still unopened from your birthday. There are so many handcrafted presents that have been sent to you by Allah. The beloved does not mind repeating, everything I have is also yours. Please forgive Hafez and the friend if we break into a sweet laughter when your heart complains of being thirsty, when ages ago every cell in your soul capsized forever into this infinite golden sea. Indeed, a lover's pain is like holding one's breath too long in the middle of a vital performance, in the middle of one of the creation's favorite songs. Indeed, a lover's pain is this sleeping when God just rolled over and gave you such a big good morning kiss. There are so many gifts, my dear, still unopened from your birthday. Oh, there are so many handcrafted presents that have been sent to your life from Allah. Nice, huh? So, talking about getting closer to Allah, and I mentioned the names, and of course, poetry, Hafez, and also what is right in front of you. Right in front of you is Allah. How you look at it or what you're looking for is what you'll find. So if you're looking for Allah, you'll see Allah because that's where your focus is. If your focus is on stress or worry or judgment or criticizing others, that will be easy to find. But if you're looking for Allah, it's a little change of attitude and a little change of focus. But Allah is always there. And in this universe, which is 13.8 billion years in its current state, that's span of life. Okay, there we go. There's 13.8 billion years, and your life, let me see if I can find where that, no, sorry, it's hard to see it. Compared to the 13.8 billion years, it's really hard to find. So the thing is that we've come from earth, dirt. We come from dirt. Why? Because it's humble. It's humility. And that is the best way to come to Allah, is through humility, because from humility, it's much easier to reach love. Love comes from humility, and this is because your heart is open. It's easier to have an open heart that way. So, quick comments or questions so far?
Yeah. Question, Sheikh, but it's a big one, so I don't know if it's maybe for later. But one of the questions that came up for me recently is if you're focusing on humility and being, focusing on love and being humble and all that, then is there a place in that though for striving and for excellence? How do you marry, or how do you find, is that from Allah or is that only from Nafs, wanting to be, wanting to do the best that you can with something?
I would say doing the best you can, given what you got, to me that's art. That's the art of living.
So humility doesn't mean, it's not the same as being sort of small or making yourself insignificant necessarily, I guess is what I'm asking. It doesn't mean that you give up that drive to act towards excellence, or do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. And there's the other part of that is there's that, and then there's the idea of surrender. That they're kind of connected in the sense of what, I should just let go of the steering wheel and let the car go where it will? Is that surrender?
Exactly. Yeah. It's I guess I'm seeing that in terms of more of the life, the car is your life kind of thing, and so being humble and trying to listen for Allah's direction, but then not letting that in a way being an excuse. That might be a bit too harsh.
Yeah.
Not letting everything go and go, oh, well, it's all up to Allah, whatever happens.
Yeah, that's a misinterpretation of what's going on.
Yeah.
Because, yes, you are responsible for what is given to you.
Yeah.
It's in your hand. If it's in your hands, that's your responsibility.
Sure.
If it's your job to take care of an auto engine, or be a lawyer, or service operator of some kind. That's your job. You do it the best you can.
No, that's okay. But what if it's not your job, but you feel like maybe it should be? That feels like I'm starting in the Nafs territory. So
yeah, that's going over into Nafs territory.
Yeah. I guess I'm talking about sort of the role of ambition. Is ambition completely from the Nafs, or is there a part of you that sort of has a feeling that there's something that you've got to give or to be, that you could be, that wants to fulfill that potential? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. And the way that I approach that is to go for it, but in the sense, with a humble or humility in your heart, to know if this is nafs or not, it's still going to be a learning situation. You're going to learn something. You may learn, and it's going to take you somewhere. And the idea is you're trying to follow Allah's directions. This may be that, and it may not be, but one way to find out is to do it.
Okay.
And you may end up in a completely different way, or I bet something is going to be learned.
Either way, yeah.
Either way.
In short, yeah.
And this idea of, once again, trusting Allah and doing your best and going, okay, Allah, I'm going to follow this because I feel impelled to do this. I feel a lot of energy here, so I want to do this. And then and what we do as Sufis is we try and get an inner and outer confirmation.
Yeah.
An inner confirmation is you may have a dream, or you feel it in your heart strongly, or it's something that you feel really close to. And an outer confirmation is you get the job, or you get kudos or approval that this is going well. So that, depending on what you're going after, I think is how we learn. There's a number of things I've spent years trying to get to work. And it isn't about the things themselves as it is, as we talk about, it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Yeah, but there's always that illusion, isn't there, that once you get that thing, that everything will be fine and will be done.
Yeah, of course. And there's a part of us that knows, no,
it's not actually going to work that way.
Right.
But at the same time, if you never try, if you don't go down the road, you don't know what's on the road.
That's right. And if you're open to learning whatever that's going to teach you, it's going to be okay. It's going to be, you get the juice from it. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
This one screenplay I'm working on, I'm rewriting it again, starting from scratch, and I don't know, this is about the 12th year working on it and getting awards for the script, but then, it's not good enough. So rip it apart, start again. So it's kind of like there's, also my symphonies and my books, my stories, lots of stuff, years and years in the making, and it's about the learning. And I enjoy learning. It would be nice to have a thumbs up at some point, but yeah, Okay. Salaam Alaykum, Ruqayya. Anything you wanted to add here?
Alaikum assalam. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a bit sick. I was just thinking, earlier on, what you were saying, Mui, is basically like the trusted Allah but tie your camel sort of thing. Of you go, okay, yeah. So Allah wants me to do this thing. Obviously, once you make sure it's not my brain wants me to do these things, my nafs wants me to do these things. But the tie your camel is do your best.
Yeah, no, trusting Allah, I got no problem with. It's trusting myself that I have to.
Yeah, but it's about it's about going further than just trusting Allah in that. So it includes doing your best. It includes respecting what Allah gives you and all of the amazingness that comes with that. And yeah, honoring it.
Yeah, and the distinction is, and this comes up almost all the time with me anyway, if I get this, and there's the nafs in there, if I can do this and I get the approval and the rewards from it, aren't I great? If that starts happening, then that's not right. This is all about Allah, and if Allah wishes this happens, it's all it's all in Allah's power. I have no power. I can set my sights for a certain harbor. Whether I get there is up to Allah.
I guess it's interesting to be able to differentiate between the words of Allah and the words of your nafs, because if you're in your brain, thoughts sound the same, right? There's so being able to I think if there's certain situations that I'm in and it's outside of my control and I've been given something which I didn't strive for, but I'm grateful for because I'm just happy that, wow, I didn't ask for this, but I'm blessed to get it. That's cool. But then there's another voice which will be, I deserve this, which is starting to get a little bit tricky. And then there's another voice which is, once there's the deserve, I worked hard for this and I deserve it. And then there's another voice which will say, I need to hold on to this. And if this is taken away from me, I'll be miserable. And then it's well, which one is really the voice of Allah, right? At which point has it turned into my ego or my nafs versus something which was given to me by something which is beyond me and bigger than me?
Yeah, it's a very thin line between the nafs and Allah and what you're choosing. If you start saying, if I is involved in the outcome, oh, look what I did, then you're in nafs land. When you go, okay, I finally made it through, or I got here, or I didn't make it, I do the best I can. It's Allah's world, it's Allah's time, and I am just, I am just a servant of Allah, and I'm trying to get to do what I think I'm supposed to do, the best I can, and leave it to Allah to be your guide. And that's another thing, is having guidance for both internal and external. That's very much needed to be able to bounce off of someone who has your spiritual concerns in regards. So that's important too, because sometimes we can't see the whole picture, and stepping back or finding a different way to see, because we have many different ways to visualize or shift our attitude or perception, and being able to look through different lenses to see where we're at in regards to these different activities that we take on. Okay? So your heart has to approve what you're doing. I've tried many times to go against my heart and do what I think is supposed to be done, and usually that ends me up in all kinds of trouble. Or that creates dis-ease. There is ease and there is dis-ease when you don't feel comfortable. And that's when your heart is not approving. So learning how to hear your heart, to me, this is one of the finer arts that very few people actually engage in, which is learning how to listen. Listening is a very high form. Stravinsky says, ducks hear. It takes effort to listen. So listening, in this case, to your heart and not your imagination or your nafs, which means first of all, you have to be able to distinguish the difference. The nafs are always going to point to me. Now, it's all about me. I am the bottom line. I am the center of the universe. And you are just some kind of satellite in my solar system. What we try to do as Sufis is put Allah as the center of our universe, and everything revolves around Him, her, them, it, she, them. So our job, like I said, is to recognize that Allah is everywhere, in everything, and to learn how to praise Him and to love Him. He doesn't mess in our life. We come to Him willingly. And that's kind of what we're trying to learn. And Sheikh Tanner says, and it comes down to this: are you with Allah or not? And he says also that Allah is trusting us to make the right decision. Now, if Allah is trusting us and is forgiving us for being stupid and making really stupid mistakes, we should pass that on too and pay it forward to those around us and be understanding. One, if I have nafs, you have nafs. So everybody has nafs, and to understand that we're all trying to get along. Some people have kind of a longer way to get to realizing that. Some of us are face to face with our nafs and go, yeah, I got problems. But that doesn't mean that we can't learn from them. One of the teachings of Sufism is that everyone you meet is your teacher. And that when somebody comes to you and they have a problem, or they have something they're doing, or they disturb you, there's something that you find offensive about them, that's teaching you something, and your job is to decode what the lesson is. Sometimes, oh, I do that. That's me not liking me that I do that. Other times it's like, oh, that's a different way to look at things. Another thing is everybody you meet has a specific reference point. Can you lock into that reference point and get that vocabulary and become interested in that person as a representative, that they represent Allah, they're part of Allah, and your job is to learn from them. Are you learning from them, or are you getting in the way? Now, do you know what I mean by this? Does this make sense, or do you want me to elaborate more on that?
Makes sense.
So, to me, I look at this as a practice, just as we have a practice of trying to be of service to other people, so that we are not thinking about ourselves. So doing zikr is a way of getting out of the way, but also being of service to others is getting ourselves out of the way, and being curious about other people and allowing them to talk and tell us about themselves does a lot of things, both for them and for us. One, we're not thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about this other person. What do they have to show me? Why am I with this person? What do they have for me that I can find of interest and learn from? So this just happened to me the other day. I was at the doctor's getting a flu shot, and we're waiting for the doctor. It's a nurse that I'm seeing. And I just start talking with her, and it turns out that I learned all about her past life, that she was a head nurse and was in charge of this whole hospital. And so I had lots of questions because, of one of our murids was a doctor and had looked at hospital culture. And I was looking at that and going, so how does that work? What makes a good hospital? How does it work? She says, it's the nurses. I said, well, what about the doctors? She says, the doctors talk about the nurses, whether they're helpful and positive and they can work with them. Doctors will go to a hospital where the nurses are good. And this was changing all my ideas about how hospitals work. I was learning a lot. And at the same time, this person is being asked about her life. Now, what do you like to talk about most? You. You want people to hear you and be approving of you and respect you. And the best way, to me, the idea of Sufism, in my view, is to bring peace to the world, one person at a time. And if you can bring a person to talk about themselves in a way that you're hearing them and listening to them, it gives them a satisfaction and confidence and a sense of trust and peace, which brings them closer to Allah and makes them feel better and makes their life a little better. She says, yeah, and now I'm doing this job, and I was at that job. I was there at 6 a.m. I left 7 p.m. After 16 years, this is my rest and relaxation. This is my R&R. I don't have to work so hard. And I'm going, wow, that was quite a life you had. This must feel really good. And letting her do the talking and following her and getting her points of reference for future discussions with other people who may be in the medical business. I now have some more information that I can use when I talk to anybody in that business. This is what I'm saying is learning different reference points means also learning vocabulary, perspective, and their attitude, and all the different factors that we can't get just by reading books or imagining. This is personal information that increases both your understanding of this person and that milieu, but it also helps them feel comfortable and safe and respected and appreciated. To me, this is where peace comes from. Non-peace, war, battles come from not feeling understood or feeling disconnected. What do you think? It was hard for me to get started doing this, basically because I came from a very manic depressive place. And I figured, you know what? I got to stop doing that. I got to find some way out of it. And I discovered, I don't care about me. I don't want to know about me. I want to know about you. And I want to learn about you. And so now I look for something that's interesting about the person. Maybe it's a scarf or a ring or a necklace or shoes or a skirt or pants or something that I can have an opening into that person's life and get to know them in a way that they feel known.
Do you go into interactions with people with a set of principles that you're going to walk away with the energy balance which is positive for the person, or at least neutral as opposed to negative? And as a result, do you tend to shy away from certain topics and the judgments that you're drawing about the person? Because you can go and talk to a person and then they start saying stuff that you disagree with, or just stuff you're like, what are you doing, dude, with your life or something? But you don't want to say that because it'll make it feel worse. And then, so how do you, but the thing is, I can't turn off my part of my brain which is always doing that anyway, right? To about myself or the world around me. So we're keen to get your thoughts around. It's interesting you say that you come from a manic depression background, so you decided and you made some changes, obviously, right? So I too have like been quite harsh on myself and stuff in the past. I'd be interested to get your thoughts around how do you create a positive energy interaction with people on an ongoing, sustainable basis with everybody you meet, especially when you might be depleted or others might be depleted.
Okay, there's a couple questions in there.
Yeah, sorry, that was a rant. And
okay, let me start with one, which is, like I said at the beginning, you have to know your own nafs. You can't just go in there and imagine that you're okay. No, you're messed up. You have a lot of faults, and you have a lot of biases, and you have a lot of enculturated paradigms that you have to recognize first before you start going in on somebody else. And this also requires being aware of being judgmental. These have to be taken care of first. Now, part of the process, of course, is learning how to serve others before yourself. But to do that, all this other work needs to be done as well. So first of all, you have to get to know your good and bad parts, so that when you see somebody bringing in their nafs, you know the difference. That's not my nafs, that's your nafs. You don't say this out loud, of course, but you recognize it and you go, okay, that's their nafs, and they want to, I don't know if I want to go there. So you move the conversation towards positive. Or you say, interesting. And then, yeah.
What do you do for work?
Me?
Yeah.
You say you're right.
I'm a cybersecurity strategy consultant, so most of my time I'm dealing with quite senior stakeholders in companies, trying to convince them that they need to buy our services. And so to a large part, I have to portray a lot of confidence in what we sell and portray that I know what they're doing really well and where their weaknesses are, and get them to buy services from us. And those are usually not like products, they're services. So those are like consulting services, advice and guidance. And for that, put it crudely, you have to make people feel not very confident, so they think we are more confident, so they come to us. Sounds terrible. I put it that way, but it's kind of my job.
This is still the same thing. As even in sales, the more you get the person to talk about themselves, the more trusting they'll be of you.
I find the reason I ask what you do is that I found in my job where I work with little people that the ones that are the most judgmental are actually the ones who are the least confident. And the ones who are the most judgmental are also the ones who don't know their own weaknesses, and it goes together. Yeah. So the lack of confidence is when you don't know your weaknesses.
It's also built on fears.
And fear, exactly. So the ones that go around telling other people what to do, the kids that go around are the ones who are less developed emotionally, and the ones that are wanting to be superior because they actually feel inferior. I guess you could probably apply that to companies as well. I don't know. Yeah, but again, like Sheikh says, it comes down to that trust thing. Like when you let a person give you all the information instead of critiquing what they present, they will eventually give you what you're looking for a lot of the time. They'll confess their own weaknesses they'll bring it up themselves. I'm having a lot of trouble with this because I trust you. I'm going to share this with you. And then you're like, awesome. Now I can swoop in and solve your problem.
There you go. Yes.
I think reflecting on the other thing we were talking about in terms of having a positive conversation, sometimes I'm like really, the interactions I love having with people who I feel like I have a positive energy balance after I've interacted with them are people who see me for more than what I'm seeing myself. So sometimes I'll get so tied up in my stresses and nafs and stuff that'll become my whole world. And then there's some special people you'll interact with. They will see it, they'll recognize it, they might even engage in it a little bit. But the whole time they see me for something a lot broader than that, right? More expansive than that, not just this sole narrow laser focus on a bunch of problems that I've got in my life. And it's interesting you say that, like, I think it does come to like, maybe I think they are looking for that in me, so they get that out of me, and therefore I walk away thinking, yeah, I am something broader than these problems. I don't know if that makes sense.
I get it. Yes. This is why it's also, again, being clear about your nafs. And especially after something like that, you want to get your feet back on the ground, maybe even do a prayer.
Been reflecting recently on how much how important alone time is. And I'm someone who used to want to be alone all the time just because I was overwhelmed a lot. But these days, it's not so much about that. It's more about, well, when I'm by myself, I know that everything that's going wrong is my fault. Or put it that way, the only nafs that's around is my nafs. So it's clearer to see, okay, that's me. But then you go in, join other people again, you go, oh, no, that wasn't there before. That must be you. So it's the only way you can tell, because otherwise, if it's always mixed up, it's all a mushmash and you don't know what's coming from who. But when you get a bit of time to yourself, you get to know where you sit.
Being clear about what your nafs are does take some alone time. It takes meditation, reflection, zikr, rabita, and shutting up. And then you can listen to the hecklers in the crowd, the nafs. They'll go, I should be first. What about me? I need attention and affection too. And then you know what needs to be done. But you need to hear your own nafs and what they're looking for, and then learn, strategically how to either ignore them or shut them up or do whatever necessary to excise them, to eschew them, to get rid of them or to put them in the background. Just because you ignore them doesn't mean that they go away. Some nafs need specific activities to reduce their effect. Yeah, Emily.
I remember you once saying the only good nafs is a dead nafs, which I liked. But on the other hand, as I get older, and I don't know about wiser, but definitely older, I just feel like there are some patterns and habits that are really ingrained, and they don't just get gone like that. Like they're not just dead.
No.
But they're more like weeds, like if you don't keep tending to them, they'll grow back.
Yeah. Well, as you begin to become familiar with your own nafs, you can then begin to see the landscape. And you can begin to see, okay, well, this is what I've got to deal with here. This, I've cleared this away. This old refrigerator isn't going anywhere in my back lot of nafs. But I have cleared out the
not really doing all that harm, so it can stay there now.
No, I know it's there, and I can't move it. Nobody's going to help me move it. At least I've gotten rid of the broken glass.
Right. Yes.
And there's no more rats because I clean out the garbage.
Thank you. It makes me feel a lot more hopeful when I see it that way.
Yeah, there's some stuff that's just...
I'm going to get rid of all of this, it's going to be gone. And it's like, but it doesn't seem to ever be completely gone. There's always something there, you know, like...
Yeah, but I wanted to give hope in the beginning that, yes, you can do this.
It was more like the boot camp talk, yeah?
There you go. That's right. Yeah. Rukaya.
I was just going to say, so basically a good nafs is a dormant naf.
Yeah.
Is it what?
Active, horrible, face sort of ones. Dormant.
A dormant, right?
Dormant naf.
Yeah, so it's the fridge that's sitting there doing nothing.
Like a
It's still
volcano.
there, but it's not actively impacting your life and other people's lives.
Yeah,
It's not the one. It's one that you've worked on a bit, but right now you've got to work on other ones. Is that kind of right, Shay?
Some nafs, this is case specific. This is not, I can't generalize this because each nafs is its own particular mine of stuff. Some are connected. Some you can't really go down further until you've taken care of this stuff. Clear this away, and now we can get into this part here.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that as well, that over time you sort of figure out, suddenly you think you're getting rid of all this stuff, and then that's just a layer on top of deeper stuff. But you've gotten further because you understand it better in a way, like even though there's more and it's deeper than you thought, it's sort of more, you have a better understanding of what you need to do.
Yeah, there's some that are tied together, but you can't get to that knot until you go through this one. And then you see, oh, it's connected to this one, and then this one. It's like, now we got to work on this.
That makes a lot of sense, Shake. I was doing some weeding a couple of days ago, I think it was. And yeah, I had this patch where they used to be a plant. And I got rid of it, and weeds come up. So there was some like wild grass, which was like, okay, I know how to address you. But then there was this one big, massive, prickly thistle, horrible thing. And it was like, I can't get to you until I get through the little stuff.
Exactly.
It's still going to hurt when I do touch you, and that was not nice. But it's about, okay, I can do a little bit of work on this and just like down so that I'm not getting hurt by it while I'm working on the little stuff.
And think of it this way too. The more work you do on fighting and working out the nafs, the better you get. And not only that, but when you clear out a nafs, that energy comes back to you to work on the next batch. And I think of it as, I've said this before, I think of it as an onion skin, that you get through these different layers and you keep working your way through until they're not so impactful on your life. Or at least you can recognize them and go, no, go away. Okay? Katie, make sense to you? Yeah? Remember, all this is so that you can be with Allah, to connect with Allah. The nafs I think of as jamming frequencies. You want to get them out of the way so that you can be with Allah more. The point is not to fight the nafs for their own sake, it's for Allah's sake.
That's right, because you can end up being obsessed with clearing the garden and not ever sit down and enjoy it.
That is so true, Mui.
Sorry, I was just taking the metaphor further.
Yeah. And there's those that end up becoming psychotherapists who think they understand the mind, and it's kind of like, no, you missed it. So yes, anything can become an obsession and another nafs in its place. Shaykhibrahim bin Ashitani Rajim. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Rahman ar-Rahim. Ma'aliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Amen. One more thing. P.S. Prayer, as Sheikh Tanner says, is your mihraj, your journey. That's the purpose of prayer, to take you in a vehicle of some sort to Allah. Okay? Salaam Alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And if anybody wants talks, I'm around for a while.
Shukran Shaykh, that was really helpful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi everybody. Bye.
Salaam Alaykum, murids, seekers, curious, and interested listeners. We appreciate you and are happy to share our Sufi message. Your donation will help support our Sufi Center in Sydney, where we do zikr, sohbet, spiritual counseling, and healing services. We believe the message should be free, but it costs equipment, rental, services, software, and hardware to get this to you. So thank you for choosing our podcast among all the millions available. If you go to our website, ansarisufiorder.org, you will be able to donate through PayPal whatever you think this information is worth to you. Blessings and love, the Australian Ansari Sufi Order.